The rain hammered against the windows of my apartment like it was trying to break through, matching the storm raging inside my chest. I sat on the cold bathroom floor, knees pulled to my chest, phone clutched in my trembling hand. The screen was still lit with Kang Su's contact information, but I couldn't bring myself to call him. Not after what I'd heard. Memory loss? I'm faking it, obviously. How else do I ditch him? The words replayed in my mind like a broken record, each repetition driving the knife deeper into my heart. 2 years. 2 years of my life poured into loving someone who thought I was nothing. Who thought what we had was gross. My name is Cha Wu and I'm an Omega. A very emotional, admittedly high-maintenance Omega who loves attention and affection like flowers love sunshine. My delicate features, the ones that earned me both admiration and cruelty throughout my life, were now streaked with tears and probably puffy from crying. I knew I looked like a mess, but I couldn't stop the sobs that racked my body. I'd always been proud of who I was. Sassy, confident, unapologetically myself. But right now, curled up on this floor, I felt small. Worthless. Like maybe Kang Su was right about me. There was only one person I wanted to see. Only one person who could make this better. With shaking fingers, I pulled up another contact. The name on the screen read simply, Moon Bin. My best friend since we were 5 years old. My protector. My constant. I pressed call before I could second-guess myself. He answered on the first ring, his deep voice rough with concern. Chao? It's 2 in the morning. What's wrong? Just hearing his voice made the tears come harder. Binny, I choked out, using the nickname only I was allowed to use. Can you come get me? Please? There was a pause, barely a heartbeat, then I heard movement, the jingle of keys, a door slamming. I'm already on my way. Stay right where you are. Don't move, don't do anything. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Binny, 10 minutes, Wu. Hold on for me. The line went dead and I clutched the phone to my chest like it was a lifeline. True to his word, exactly 9 minutes later, I heard my apartment door burst open. I hadn't locked it. I never did when I knew Moonbin was coming. Heavy footsteps rushed through my apartment, and then he was there, filling the doorway of my bathroom with his imposing presence. Moonbin was everything I wasn't. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp features that could cut glass and eyes that could freeze someone in their tracks. He was Seoul's most feared alpha, a mafia lord whose name alone made grown men tremble. But right now, those cold eyes were molten with worry as they took in my crumpled form on the floor. Cha Wu. My name came out like a prayer and a curse all at once. He crossed the space between us in 2 strides and dropped to his knees, his large hands cupping my face with a gentleness that contradicted everything the world knew about him. His thumbs wiped away my tears, but they just kept coming. Who hurt you? His voice was deadly calm, which was somehow more terrifying than if he'd been shouting. Answer me. I'm going to kill whoever made you cry like this. I shook my head, unable to form words. How could I tell him? How could I admit that I'd been so stupid, so blind? Did someone bully you again? His jaw clenched. Give me a name, Wu. Just one name. I can't, I hiccuped through my sobs. I can't tell you. You'll do something crazy. Something flickered across his face, hurt maybe that I didn't trust him. But then his expression softened, and he gathered me into his arms, lifting me off the cold floor like I weighed nothing. I buried my face in his neck, breathing in his scent, sandalwood and rain, and something uniquely him that had always made me feel safe. All right, he murmured against my hair. You don't have to tell me now. But I'm not leaving you alone like this. He carried me to my bedroom and laid me on the bed with infinite care. Then he did something that made my heart clench. He climbed in beside me, fully clothed, and pulled me against his chest. His hand stroked my hair in slow, soothing motions. Sleep, Wu, he whispered. I've got you. No one's going to hurt you while I'm here. Despite everything, despite the pain shredding my insides, I felt myself relaxing into his warmth. Moonbin had always had this effect on me. Since we were children, since that day on the playground when he'd stepped between me and the boys who were pushing me around, calling me names because I was too pretty for a boy, because I was an Omega. Leave him alone, 5-year-old Moonbin had said, his little fists clenched. Or you'll have to deal with me. Even then, there had been something commanding about him. The bullies had run away and Moonbin had helped me up, brushing dirt off my clothes with clumsy but caring hands. Are you okay? He'd asked. I'd sniffled and nodded. Why did you help me? Because you're my friend now. And I protect my friends. 20 years later, he was still keeping that promise. As sleep finally claimed me, wrapped in the safety of Moonbin's arms, I didn't know that everything was about to change. I didn't know that the man holding me had been in love with me for years. I didn't know that my broken heart was about to be pieced back together in the most unexpected way. All I knew was that for the first time since overhearing Kang Soo's betrayal, I could breathe. I woke to the smell of coffee and something sweet, pancakes maybe. For a moment, I was disoriented, my puffy eyes struggling to adjust to the morning light filtering through my curtains. Then the memories of last night came flooding back and my chest tightened. Kang Soo. The lies. The cruelty. I sat up slowly, realizing I was alone in bed but still fully dressed. The apartment was quiet except for soft sounds coming from the kitchen. Moonbin hadn't left. Of course he hadn't. I dragged myself out of bed and padded to the bathroom, grimacing at my reflection. My eyes were swollen, my hair was a disaster, and I looked like I'd been hit by a truck. With a sigh, I splashed cold water on my face and tried to make myself presentable. It was a losing battle, but I did my best. When I emerged into the kitchen, I found Moonbin at my stove, his suit jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up to his elbows as he flipped pancakes with surprising skill. He looked over his shoulder when he heard me, and something soft passed through his usually hard expression. "Morning," he said quietly. "Sit. Breakfast is almost ready." I obeyed, sinking into one of my kitchen chairs and watching him work. It was surreal. Moonbin, feared Mafia boss, making me breakfast in my tiny kitchen. But this was us. This had always been us. He took care of me in ways that no one else ever had. He set a plate in front of me, perfectly golden pancakes topped with fresh strawberries and a drizzle of honey, exactly how I liked them. My favorite coffee sat steaming in my favorite mug beside it. "Eat," he commanded gently, settling into the chair across from me with his own black coffee. I picked up my fork but couldn't quite bring myself to take a bite. My appetite was non-existent, my stomach still churning with the aftermath of heartbreak. Moonbin's eyes narrowed slightly. "Chawo. You need your strength." "I'm not hungry," I mumbled, poking at a strawberry. "I don't care. Eat anyway." There was steel in his voice now, the voice that made hardened criminals obey without question. But I wasn't scared of him. I never had been. "Stop being so bossy," I said, but without any real heat. "I'm not one of your subordinates." "No," he agreed, his gaze intense. "You're much more important than that." Something about the way he said it made my heart skip, but I pushed the feeling aside. I was too raw, too broken to analyze it. Instead, I forced myself to take a bite of pancake. It was delicious, of course. Everything Moonbin did, he did perfectly. We ate in silence for a while, but I could feel him watching me, studying me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. Finally, he set down his cup. "Chawo, tell me what happened. Who made you cry like that?" I kept my eyes on my plate. "It's nothing. Don't lie to me." His voice was low, dangerous. "I've known you for 20 years. I know when you're hiding something. And I know the difference between nothing and something that broke your heart." My throat tightened. "Why do you care so much?" The question came out more defensive than I intended, but I was feeling vulnerable and exposed. Moonbin was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. "Because you're my best friend. Because seeing you in pain makes me want to burn down the entire city until I find who's responsible. Because..." He trailed off, jaw clenching like he was stopping himself from saying something more. "Because what?" I pressed, finally meeting his eyes. Those dark eyes held something I couldn't quite name, something intense and almost desperate. But then he looked away, his usual mask of control sliding back into place. "Because you deserve better than tears," he said finally. "You deserve to be treated like the precious thing you are." The words made my eyes sting with fresh tears. Then why did he? I couldn't finish. Couldn't say it out loud. Moonbin's hand shot across the table, gripping mine. His touch was warm, grounding. "Who, Chawo? Give me a name." I shook my head. "You'll kill him." "Probably." He didn't even try to deny it. "But he clearly deserves it if he hurt you this badly." "It was Kang Soo," I whispered, the confession tearing out of me. "My boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend now, I guess." Moonbin's entire body went rigid. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees, and I could practically see the rage rolling off him in waves. "What did he do?" Each word was precisely enunciated, deadly calm. "He's been faking memory loss," I said, my voice breaking. "To get away from me. I overheard him on the phone with someone. He said being with me was gross. That I was nothing special. That he was using amnesia as an excuse to ditch me." The sound Moonbin made was inhuman, somewhere between a growl and a snarl. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor, and I saw his hands clench into fists. Where is he? Moonbin's voice was lethal. Where does he live, work, breathe? Tell me everything. Binny, no. Tell me, Cha Wu. He turned to face me and the look in his eyes made me shiver. This was Moonbin the Mafia Lord, not Moonbin my best friend. That bastard used you. Humiliated you. Made you cry until you couldn't breathe. He doesn't get to walk away from that. Please, I begged, standing and grabbing his arm. Please don't kill him. I don't want you to get in trouble because of me. Something in my plea seemed to reach him. He took a deep breath, then another, visibly trying to calm himself. When he looked at me again, the murderous rage had banked to a simmer. Fine, he said tightly. I won't kill him. I relaxed slightly. But I am going to ruin his life in ways he can't even imagine. Before I could respond, Moonbin's phone rang. He answered it with a curt, "What?" I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but Moonbin's expression grew darker with each passing second. Handle it, he finally said. I'm not available today. Or tomorrow. Or until I say otherwise. He paused. Because I have something more important to take care of. He hung up and turned back to me. Pack a bag. I blinked. What? Pack a bag, he repeated. You're coming to stay with me. My penthouse. It's safer there and I can keep an eye on you. Binny, I can't just. Yes, you can. He moved closer, his hand coming up to cup my cheek. The gesture was surprisingly tender. Please, Will. Let me take care of you. Let me protect you properly. At least until you're feeling better. The please did it. Moonbin never said please. Not to anyone but me. Okay, I whispered. For a few days. He smiled, a rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. Good. Now go pack. Take whatever you need. And woo. Yeah. You're safe with me. Always. I promise you that. As I went to pack, my heart felt fractionally lighter. I didn't know then that a few days would turn into something much more permanent. I didn't know that Moonbin had already set plans in motion regarding Kang Su. And I definitely didn't know that the feelings growing in my chest weren't just gratitude. They were the beginning of something that would change both of our lives forever. Moonbin's penthouse was exactly what you'd expect from Seoul's most powerful mafia boss. Sleek, modern, and intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city, and everything was decorated in blacks, grays, and deep blues. It screamed wealth and power. But as he led me inside, carrying my bag despite my protests, I noticed small details that softened the space. A bookshelf filled with both business texts and, surprisingly, novels. A well-worn leather couch that looked actually comfortable. And in the corner, I spotted something that made my heart squeeze. A framed photo of us as kids, grinning at the camera with missing teeth and messy hair. You kept that? I asked, pointing at it. Moonbin set my bag down and glanced at the photo, something almost vulnerable crossing his face. Of course. It's my favorite picture. Before I could process that, he was all business again. Your room is down this hall. Master Suite. It has its own bathroom and... Wait, Master Suite? Where will you sleep? Guest room. Binny, no. This is your home. I'm not kicking you out of your own bedroom. He turned to face me and the look he gave me was both exasperated and fond. Chao. You're an Omega who's just been through emotional trauma. You need comfort, safety, and the best space I can provide. That's my room. End of discussion. But, do we really need to argue about this? He raised an eyebrow. Because I will win. I always do when it comes to your well-being. He had a point. Moonbin was immovable when he decided something was for my own good. Fine, I huffed, trying to maintain some dignity. But I'm only agreeing because I'm too tired to fight. Whatever helps you sleep at night, princess. The nickname made me blush. He'd been calling me that for years, sometimes teasing, sometimes tender. Right now it felt like both. He showed me to the master suite and I had to bite back a gasp. The room was enormous, with a bed that could easily fit 4 people, draped in luxurious dark blue linens. Everything smelled like Moonbin, that addictive scent that made my Omega instincts purr with contentment. Get settled, he said, setting my bag on the bed. I have some calls to make, but I'll be in my office if you need anything. And woo. I looked up at him. Make yourself at home. This is your space now for as long as you need it. After he left, I unpacked slowly, my mind still reeling from the last 24 hours. Everything felt surreal. Yesterday I'd thought I was in love, planning a future. Now I was staying in my best friend's penthouse, hiding from a heartbreak I still couldn't quite process. I decided to take a shower, hoping the hot water would wash away some of the lingering pain. Moonbin's bathroom was like something out of a magazine. Marble everywhere, a rainfall showerhead that felt like heaven, and expensive toiletries that smelled amazing. As I stood under the spray, I finally let myself think about Kang-soo. About the 2 years I'd wasted on someone who'd never truly wanted me. About all the times I'd ignored little red flags because I was so desperate to be loved. The tears came again, mixing with the shower water. I'd always been high maintenance emotionally. I knew that about myself. I craved affection, attention, reassurance. Most people found it exhausting. Even Kang-soo apparently, though he'd hidden it well. But Moonbin had never complained. Never made me feel like I was too much. He'd always given me exactly what I needed, the attention, the care, the gentle handling that made me feel cherished instead of burdensome. Why couldn't I have fallen for someone like him instead? The thought startled me so much that I turned off the water and just stood there, dripping. Where had that come from? I pushed it aside and dried off, pulling on comfortable clothes, soft sweatpants and an oversized hoodie that had somehow ended up being Moonbin's from years ago. I'd stolen it and refused to give it back, and he'd never asked for it. When I emerged from the bedroom, I found Moonbin in his office as promised. The door was open and I could see him on the phone, speaking in rapid Korean that sounded distinctly threatening. I don't care what you have to do. Find everything, bank records, phone logs, every dirty secret he's ever had. I want him destroyed. Professionally, financially, socially. When I'm done with him, he'll wish he really did have amnesia. He paused, listening. No. Not dead. I promised Cha-woo I wouldn't kill him. But everything else is fair game. He hung up and looked up, catching me in the doorway. His expression immediately softened. Feel better? You're investigating Kang-soo, I said, not quite a question. Of course I am. He stood and came around the desk. He hurt you. That requires consequences. Benny? I'm not going to kill him, he assured me. I promised. But I am going to make sure he understands what a massive mistake he made. And I'm going to make sure he can never hurt you again. The protective possessiveness in his voice sent a shiver through me. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. He was close now, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to look at him. You're mine to protect, Cha-woo. You have been since we were 5 years old. No one hurts what's mine. What's mine? The words echoed in my head, stirring something warm and confusing in my chest. I'm not a possession, I said weakly. No, he agreed, his hand coming up to tuck a strand of my still damp hair behind my ear. You're infinitely more precious than any possession. You're everything. The way he was looking at me, like I was something rare and breakable and cherished, made my breath catch. This felt different from how he usually looked at me. This felt like, no, I was imagining things. Projecting because I was vulnerable and hurting. Are you hungry? He asked, breaking the moment. I can order dinner. Whatever you want. You're spoiling me, I said, trying to lighten the mood. Good. You deserve to be spoiled. He pulled out his phone. Chinese? Italian? Korean? Surprise me. He smiled, that rare soft smile again. As you wish, princess. While he ordered food, I wandered to the windows and looked out at the city lights. Seoul sprawled below us, beautiful and indifferent to the small dramas of broken hearts and complicated friendships. Cha-woo, Moonbin's voice came from behind me. I need to tell you something. I turned to find him standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets, looking almost nervous? That was impossible. Moonbin didn't do nervous. What is it? He took a breath. I've always taken care of you. Always protected you. And I want you to know that I always will. No matter what happens, no matter where life takes us, you can count on me. Always. The intensity of his words, of his gaze, made my heart race. I know that, Benny. You're my best friend. Something flickered across his face. Disappointment, maybe, or resignation. But he just nodded. Right. Best friends. The food arrived, and we spent the evening eating and watching movies, with me curled up against his side like I'd done 1,000 times before. It should have felt normal, comfortable. And it did, but there was also something else now. A tension I couldn't quite name, a awareness of his warmth and strength, and the way his arm around my shoulders felt less like friendship and more like something else. I was still healing from Kang-soo. Still broken and confused. But for the first time since my world had shattered, I felt a tiny spark of something that might, eventually, become hope. I just didn't know that the real test was still coming. That my omega biology was about to complicate everything in ways neither of us could have predicted. That night, as I fell asleep in Moonbin's bed, surrounded by his scent, I dreamed of dark eyes and gentle hands and a love I'd been too blind to see. The next few days fell into a comfortable rhythm. Moonbin would leave early for his business. I'd learned years ago not to ask too many questions about what exactly that entailed, and return in the evenings to find me curled up with a book or mindlessly scrolling through my phone. He'd cook dinner or we'd order in and we'd spend hours just talking. Sometimes about nothing. Sometimes about everything. He never pushed me to talk about Kong Su, but when I needed to vent, he listened with infinite patience, his jaw clenching whenever I mentioned something particularly cruel. I was feeling better. Stronger. The sharp edges of heartbreak were starting to dull into something more manageable. But I noticed something else too. I was becoming increasingly aware of Moonbin in ways that confused me. The way his shirt stretched across his broad shoulders. The rumble of his laugh when I said something particularly sassy. The gentleness in his rough hands whenever he'd casually touch my shoulder or ruffle my hair. Every small gesture felt magnified, significant. I told myself it was just because I was emotionally vulnerable. That I was latching onto him because he made me feel safe. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. On the fourth day, I woke up to find Moonbin already in the kitchen, making breakfast as usual. But when I walked in, he turned and froze, his eyes darkening in a way that made my skin heat. "Good morning," I said, suddenly self-conscious. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "You're wearing my shirt," he said, his voice rough. I glanced down. I was indeed wearing one of his t-shirts. It was huge on me, falling to mid-thigh, and I'd paired it with sleep shorts. I'd been borrowing his clothes for years. Why did it feel different now? "Sorry, I can change if..." "No." The word came out sharp, almost desperate. He cleared his throat. "No, it's fine. You look, it's fine." The air between us felt charged. I could see him struggling with something, his usual iron control fraying at the edges. "Benny? Are you okay?" He turned back to the stove, his shoulders tense. "I'm fine. Breakfast is ready." But he wasn't fine. I could tell. And throughout breakfast, I caught him watching me with an intensity that made my omega instincts flutter with awareness. After we ate, he disappeared into his office, claiming he had urgent business to handle. I tried not to feel disappointed. Tried not to wonder why the sudden distance after days of constant companionship. Around midday, I decided to do some cleaning. I couldn't just be a freeloader, even if Moonbin insisted I was a guest. I was organizing some books in his living room when I heard raised voices coming from his office. I knew I shouldn't eavesdrop. But one of the voices sounded upset and my curiosity got the better of me. "Can't keep avoiding it, Hyung," a male voice was saying. Someone younger from the tone. "You need to tell him how you feel." "It's not that simple, Jae-sung." That was Moonbin's voice, heavy with frustration. "Why not? You've been in love with him for what, 15 years? 20? When are you going to stop torturing yourself?" My heart stopped. "In love? With who?" "He just got out of a relationship," Moonbin said, and I could hear the pain in his voice. "His heart is broken. The last thing he needs is me complicating things with feelings he doesn't return." "How do you know he doesn't return them if you never tell him?" "Because I've had 20 years to observe him, Jay. He sees me as his best friend, his protector." Not like that. And I'm fine with it. As long as he's in my life, as long as I can keep him safe, I'm fine." "That's bullshit and you know it. The way you look at him." "Enough." Moonbin's voice turned hard. "Drop it. I'm not discussing this further." "Fine. But for what it's worth, I think you're wrong. I think he cares about you more than you realize. And one of these days you're going to regret not taking the chance." I heard footsteps approaching the door and quickly moved away, pretending to be absorbed in arranging books. A young man I didn't recognize emerged from the office, presumably Jae-sung, giving me a knowing look before leaving the penthouse. My mind was reeling. Moonbin was in love with someone? For 20 years? Who could it possibly be? I ran through everyone we knew trying to figure it out. But no one made sense. Moonbin didn't date, didn't show interest in anyone. The only person he spent significant time with was... No, that couldn't be right. He couldn't mean me? But the more I thought about it, the more things clicked into place. The way he'd always been there for me. The fierce protectiveness. The soft looks I'd sometimes caught but dismissed. The way he'd reacted to seeing me in his shirt this morning. My heart was pounding so hard I felt dizzy. If it was true, if Moonbin had feelings for me, how did I feel about that? The thought didn't fill me with panic or discomfort. Instead, it filled me with a warm confusion, a fluttering hope that terrified me. Because if I was honest with myself, really honest, I had to admit that these past few days had felt different. That being close to him, being cared for by him, had awakened something in me that had probably been there all along, just dormant. I'd been so focused on seeking love elsewhere, so determined to find someone who could make me feel cherished, that I'd missed the person who'd been doing exactly that my entire life. I needed to know for sure. Needed to hear it from him. Taking a deep breath, I walked to his office and knocked on the open door. Moonbin looked up from his desk, and the naked vulnerability in his expression before he could mask it told me everything I needed to know. Chao, did you need something? Yeah, I said softly, stepping into the office and closing the door behind me. I need the truth. He went very still. About what? About why you really invited me to stay here. About why you've taken care of me our entire lives. About why you look at me like I'm something precious. His jaw clenched. Whoa. Are you in love with me, Moonbin? The question hung in the air between us, heavy and unavoidable. I watched the emotions play across his face, surprise, panic, resignation, and finally, acceptance. He stood slowly, coming around the desk but maintaining distance, like he was afraid to get too close. How did you? I overheard you and Jae-sung. And once I knew what to look for, everything made sense. All these years it was always you, wasn't it? You weren't just being a good friend. You were. Loving you, he finished quietly. Yes. I've been in love with you since we were teenagers. Maybe even before that. I don't remember a time when you weren't everything to me. My eyes stung with tears but not sad ones. Why didn't you tell me? Because you deserved someone better. Someone who could give you a normal life, not someone whose hands are stained with blood. And because your friendship was too precious to risk. He laughed bitterly. And apparently because I'm a coward. You're not a coward, I whispered, moving closer. You're the bravest person I know. Chao. I don't know what I'm feeling right now, I admitted. Everything is confused and complicated. But I know that being here with you these past few days, I felt safer and more cared for than I ever did in 2 years with Kang-soo. I know that when you look at me, I feel beautiful instead of burdensome. And I know that the thought of you loving me doesn't scare me. It feels right. His eyes widened. What are you saying? I'm saying I need time to figure out my feelings. But I'm also saying that I want to try. I want to see where this could go if you're willing to be patient with me. Moonbin closed the distance between us in 2 strides, his hands cupping my face with such tenderness that my breath caught. I would wait forever for you, Chao. I have been waiting. And I'll keep waiting as long as you need. Kiss me, I whispered, surprising myself. Woo, you're still healing from. Kiss me, Benny. Please. I need to know. He hesitated only a moment more before leaning down, his lips meeting mine in a kiss that was somehow both gentle and desperate. It wasn't the rushed, demanding kisses I'd experienced before. This was reverent, worshipful, like I was something holy. And I felt it, the rightness of it, the way my omega instincts purred with satisfaction, the way my heart stuttered and then raced. This wasn't just comfort or rebound. This was real. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Moonbin rested his forehead against mine. I love you, he whispered. I'm so desperately, completely in love with you. I think I'm falling for you too, I admitted. I think maybe I have been for a while and I was just too blind to see it. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. We'll take this slow. Whatever pace you need. I'm not going anywhere. And in that moment, wrapped in his arms, I finally understood what it meant to be truly cherished. Not despite being high maintenance and emotional and complicated, but because of all of it. But neither of us knew that our newfound understanding was about to be tested in the most primal way possible. My heat was coming. And everything was about to change. It started with restlessness. A vague discomfort that I couldn't quite place, making me shift and squirm no matter how I positioned myself on Moonbin's luxurious couch. We'd spent the day much like the others. Him working in his office while I entertained myself, the new awareness between us adding a pleasant tension to every interaction. He'd kissed me twice more. Once in the kitchen when he caught me stealing food while he cooked, and once just because I'd asked him to. Each kiss was perfect, unhurried, like we had all the time in the world. But now, as evening fell and the city lights began to twinkle below us, something felt off. My skin was too hot, too sensitive. Everything smelled overwhelming, especially Moonbin's scent, which seemed to call to something deep and instinctual inside me. Oh no. Oh no. I sat up abruptly, my heart racing as realization crashed over me. My heat was coming. And I'd completely lost track of the cycle and all the chaos of the breakup and the move. Benny, I called out, my voice already going breathy and desperate in a way that made me cringe with embarrassment. He emerged from his office immediately, and I saw the exact moment he caught my scent. His entire body went rigid, his eyes darkening to almost black. The air grew thick with his answering pheromones, Alpha responding to Omega in distress. "Cha Wu," he said, his voice strained. "Your heat." "I know," I whimpered, curling in on myself as the first wave of need crashed through me. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize. It's early, I thought I had more time." "Stop apologizing." He was across the room in seconds but maintained a careful distance. "Do you have suppressants?" "Heat blockers." I shook my head, already trembling. "I ran out. I was supposed to refill them this week, but with everything." A low growl rumbled from his chest, and the sound made something inside me clench with want. "I need to leave. I'll call someone, a friend, a heat clinic." "No." The word came out panicked. The thought of him leaving, of being alone during this, made everything worse. "Please don't go. I need." Another wave hit, stronger this time, and I cried out. My skin was on fire, every nerve ending screaming for relief. For an alpha. For him. "Wu, I can't stay," Moonbin said, and I could hear the strain in his voice, see how his hands were clenched into fists. "If I stay, I don't know if I can control myself. And I won't take advantage of you like this. I won't let your first time with me be because of biology. But it hurts," I sobbed, shame and need warring inside me. "Binny, it hurts so much." I saw something break in him. He moved closer, kneeling in front of the couch but still not touching me. "Tell me what you need. I'll do anything except." "Touch me. Please just touch me. I need to feel you." His jaw clenched so hard I heard it crack. "Cha Wu. You said you love me," I reminded him desperately, reaching for him with shaking hands. "You said you'd do anything for me. I'm asking you to help me through this. I trust you. Only you. You don't know what you're asking." "Yes, I do." Even through the haze of heat, I was certain of this. "I want you, Binny. Not just because of the heat. I want you. Please." The last thread of his control snapped. He swept me up into his arms, carrying me swiftly to the bedroom. But even in his desperate state, he was gentle, laying me on the bed like I might break. "I need you to be sure," he said, his voice wrecked. "Once we do this, there's no going back. You'll be mine in every way that matters." "I'm already yours," I whispered, reaching up to cup his face. "I think I always have been." That was all the permission he needed. What followed was intense, overwhelming, and absolutely perfect. Moonbin was everything I never knew I needed, demanding but attentive, passionate but careful, always making sure I was okay even as the heat drove us both to the edge of reason. He kissed me like he was drowning and I was air. Touched me like I was precious and fragile in his. Whispered words of love and devotion against my skin between kisses and bites and claiming marks that would definitely be visible tomorrow. "So beautiful," he murmured against my throat, his teeth grazing the sensitive scent gland there. "Do you know how long I've wanted this? Wanted you." I couldn't form words, could only whimper and arch against him, seeking more contact, more friction, more of everything. "That's it, baby," he praised, his hands mapping every inch of my skin like he was memorizing me. "Let me take care of you. Let me give you what you need." The heat made everything more intense, more primal. My Omega instincts demanded I submit, that I let him claim me completely. And for once I didn't fight those instincts. I surrendered to them, to him, trusting him completely with this vulnerable part of myself. When he finally entered me, after what felt like hours of preparation and teasing, I cried out his name like a prayer. The feeling of fullness, of completion, of rightness was overwhelming. This was what had been missing with Kang Su. This perfect fit, this sense of coming home. "Mine," Moonbin growled against my ear, his hips moving in a rhythm that had me seeing stars. "Say it, Wu. Tell me you're mine." "Yours," I sobbed, clinging to him like an anchor in the storm of sensation. "Always yours, Binny. Only yours." His teeth found my scent gland then, not quite breaking the skin but the pressure and intent clear. A claiming bite that would bond us together if he bit down. Part of me wanted him to, wanted that permanent connection. But he held back, knowing we weren't quite there yet. Instead, he made love to me with a devotion that brought tears to my eyes, whispering promises against my skin between kisses. "I love you. God, I love you so much. You're perfect. So perfect for me. Never letting you go. You're mine now, Cha Wu. Mine to protect, mine to cherish, mine to love." The heat lasted 3 days. 3 days of intense coupling punctuated by brief periods of rest where Moonbin would feed me, help me bathe, hold me while I slept. He never left my side, never complained about his own exhaustion. He just took care of me with single-minded devotion. And when it finally broke, when I came back to myself completely, I woke up wrapped in his arms, his body curled protectively around mine. The sheets were a disaster and I was covered in bite marks and hickeys that made me blush. But I'd never felt more satisfied, more cherished, more loved. "Hey," Moonbin murmured, his voice rough from sleep and 3 days of growling. "How are you feeling?" "Sore," I admitted, wincing as I tried to move. "But good. Really good." His arms tightened around me. "Do you regret it?" "No." I turned in his embrace to face him, my hand coming up to trace his jaw. "Do you?" "Not for a second." He caught my hand and pressed a kiss to my palm. "But I want you to know, what we did, it wasn't just heat for me. It wasn't just biology." "I know," I whispered. "It wasn't just heat for me either, Binny. I meant everything I said. I'm yours. If you still want me." He laughed, the sound full of disbelief and joy. "If I still want you? Chawu, I've wanted you since we were 15 years old. I've dreamed about this for half my life. Of course I still want you. I'll always want you." "Good." I snuggled closer, ignoring the protests of my sore body. "Because I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me now. Best thing that's ever happened to me." We lay there for a long time, just holding each other, the weight of what had changed between us settling into something warm and right. Finally, I broached the subject I'd been avoiding. "I need to tell you something. About Kong-Soo. About what really happened." "You don't have to." "I want to." I took a deep breath. I overheard him on the phone. He was talking to someone about me, about our relationship. He said he was faking memory loss to get away from me. That being with me was gross. That I wasn't special. Moonbin's entire body went taut with rage. "That bastard." "I know you already investigated him," I continued. "I'm not mad about that. But I need you to know the full truth. Because it still hurts. Even now, even after everything we just shared, part of me still carries that wound." "I'm going to kill him," Moonbin said flatly. "I promised I wouldn't, but I'm going to break that promise." "No." I placed my hand over his heart. "I don't want that. I don't want him to have that kind of power over us. Over our future." "Then what do you want?" I considered. "I want him to understand what he lost. I want him to know that his cruelty didn't break me, it led me to something real. And I want him to face consequences for using such a cruel lie." Moonbin was quiet for a moment, then a slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. "I can work with that. I already have a plan in motion actually. By the time I'm done with Kong-Soo, he really will have lost his memory, of his job, his friends, his reputation. Everything that matters to him. It's poetic, really." "That's terrifying and a little bit hot," I admitted, making him laugh. "Welcome to dating a mafia boss, princess. We're possessive, protective, and we don't forgive easily when someone hurts what's ours." "Is that what we're doing? Dating?" "I was hoping for something more permanent, but we can start with dating if you prefer." His hand traced patterns on my bare skin. "Chawu, I want everything with you. All of it. But I'll take whatever you're willing to give." "I want everything too," I confessed. "It scares me how much I want it. This is all so new, but it also feels like it's been building for 20 years. "It has been," he said softly. "At least for me. For me too, I think. I just didn't recognize it until now." He kissed me then, slow and sweet, so different from the frantic coupling of the heat. This was a kiss of promise, of possibility, of a future I was finally ready to embrace. When we finally emerged from the bedroom hours later, after a very thorough shared shower that turned into another session against the tiles, I felt transformed. Not because of the sex, though that had been incredible, but because I finally understood what I'd been missing my entire life. I'd been loved all along. Completely, desperately, devotedly loved by the one person who'd always been there. And now that I'd opened my eyes to it, now that I'd let myself love him back, everything felt right in a way it never had before. Moonbin made us dinner while I watched from the counter, stealing kisses whenever he got close enough. We were disgustingly domestic, absurdly affectionate, and I loved every second of it. My phone buzzed with a message and I glanced at it, then froze. "It's from Kong-Soo." Moonbin's expression darkened immediately. "What does he want?" I opened the message with shaking hands. It was short, confused. "Why can't I access my accounts? What's happening? Chawu, if this is you." "Is this you?" I asked Moonbin. "Phase 1, he confirmed, not sounding remotely apologetic. "He's going to learn what it feels like to have everything stripped away. To be disoriented and lost. Just like he tried to make you feel." I should have felt bad. Should have protested. But looking at Moonbin, at the fierce protectiveness in his eyes, I felt only satisfaction. "What's phase 2? You really want to know?" "Yeah. I do." He smiled, pulling me into his arms. Phase 2 is letting everyone in his social and professional circle know exactly what kind of person he really is. The lies, the manipulation, the cruelty. By the time I'm done, he won't be able to show his face anywhere in Seoul. And phase 3? Making sure he knows exactly what he lost. Making sure he sees you happy, thriving, loved. That's the real punishment, knowing he had something precious and threw it away for nothing. I kissed him hard and grateful. Have I mentioned that I'm falling completely in love with you? Not in the last 10 minutes, he teased. Feel free to remind me as often as you like. I love you, Moonbin. Thank you for always protecting me. For always seeing me as something precious. You are precious, Chawu. You're everything. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never forget that. As I settled into his arms, my phone buzzing with increasingly panicked messages from Kang Soo that I had no intention of answering, I finally felt at peace. The heartbreak that had shattered me just days ago felt distant now, like it had happened to someone else. Because I'd found something real. Something that had been waiting for me all along. I'd found my home in Moonbin's arms. And I was never letting go. 3 months later, life had settled into a beautiful rhythm that I never wanted to end. I'd officially moved into Moonbin's penthouse, turning the guest room into my own personal wardrobe and art space. Moonbin had insisted I make the place my own, and now the stark, masculine space had splashes of color and life. My paintings on the walls, plants in the corners, and photographs of us scattered throughout. Word had gotten out about our relationship and the reactions had been mixed. Some of Moonbin's associates were confused. The ruthless Mafia boss had a soft, sassy Omega boyfriend? But most were just relieved that he seemed happier, less volatile. Apparently being in love had mellowed him slightly. Only slightly though. He was still terrifying to everyone except me. As for Kang Soo, Moonbin had been true to his word. My ex had lost his job, his reputation, and most of his friends when evidence of his manipulative behavior mysteriously surfaced online. Last I heard, he'd left Seoul entirely, unable to face the consequences of his actions. I should have felt guilty. But I didn't. He'd tried to break me and instead, he'd pushed me toward the person who'd always been meant to catch me. Woo baby, come here, Moonbin called from the living room. I padded out from the bedroom where I'd been getting dressed for our dinner date. What's up? He was standing by the windows looking out at the city and when he turned to face me, my breath caught. He was in a perfectly tailored black suit, his hair styled back, looking every inch the powerful alpha he was. But his eyes were soft, nervous even as they took me in. You look beautiful, he said moving toward me. You don't look so bad yourself, I teased, straightening his tie even though it was already perfect. Are we going somewhere fancy? You're dressed up more than usual. Actually, I need to tell you something first. He took both my hands in his and I noticed they were trembling slightly. Benny? What's wrong? You're scaring me. Nothing's wrong. Everything is so right it terrifies me. He took a breath. Chawu, these past 3 months have been the happiest of my entire life. Getting to love you openly, getting to wake up with you every morning, getting to call you mine, it's everything I ever dreamed of and more. My heart was racing. I feel the same way. I know we haven't been together long officially, and I know that some people might think we're moving too fast. But Chawu, we've known each other for 20 years. I've been in love with you for most of that time. And I don't want to waste another second. He released one of my hands to reach into his pocket, and when he pulled out a small velvet box, I gasped. Moonbin. Let me finish, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You are the most precious thing in my world. You always have been. And I want to make that official in every way possible. I want to bond with you. I want to marry you. I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy, giving you everything you deserve, and loving you with everything I have. He dropped to one knee, opening the box to reveal a stunning ring. A deep blue sapphire surrounded by diamonds, elegant and perfect. Chawu, will you marry me? Will you let me be yours forever? Tears were streaming down my face. Yes, I sobbed. Yes, yes, of course yes. He surged to his feet, sliding the ring onto my finger before crushing me against him in a kiss that tasted of joy and promise and forever. When we finally broke apart, both of us were crying. I love you so much, I whispered against his lips. I can't believe I almost missed this. Almost missed us. But you didn't, he reminded me gently. We found our way to each other. That's all that matters. When? I asked. When do you want to do this? Whenever you want. Tomorrow, next month, next year. I just need to know you're committed to this, to us. I want to bond first, I said, surprising myself with the certainty. I want that permanent connection with you. I want everyone to know I'm yours and you're mine. His eyes darkened with desire and possessiveness. Are you sure? Bonding is permanent, woo. Once I bite you, I know what it means. And I want it. I want all of it. With you. The dinner reservation was promptly forgotten. Moonbin carried me to the bedroom, laying me out on the bed with reverent care. This time, when he made love to me, there was an added intensity. A purpose beyond pleasure. Last chance to change your mind, he murmured against my throat, his teeth grazing the sensitive scent gland. Bite me, Binny, I pleaded, tilting my head to give him better access. Make me yours forever. When his teeth finally sank into my gland, the sensation was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Pain and pleasure mixed together, and then, connection. I could feel him, his emotions pouring into me through the bond. Love, devotion, possessiveness, joy, relief. It was overwhelming and perfect. Mine, he growled against my skin, licking the wound to help it heal. Forever mine. Yours, I agreed breathlessly. Always yours. The bond settled into place, a constant warm presence in the back of my mind. I could feel Moonbin there, always, and the sense of completion was indescribable. Later, as we lay tangled together, both of us bearing fresh claiming marks, Moonbin traced the bonding bite on my neck with gentle fingers. No regrets. Not a single one. I caught his hand and kissed it. This is everything I never knew I needed. You are everything. I meant what I said, you know. About the rest of my life. I'm going to spend every day making sure you know how loved you are. You already do, I assured him. Every single day you make me feel precious. Beautiful. Important. You give me all the attention and affection I crave, and you never make me feel like I'm too much. Because you're not too much. You're exactly right. Perfect for me. I snuggled closer, feeling his heartbeat against my cheek. Tell me about our future. What do you see? I see us getting married in the spring, he said thoughtfully. Somewhere private, just close friends and family. I see us traveling. I want to show you the world, whoa. Every beautiful place I can think of. What else? I see us building a life together. Maybe adopting someday if you want children. I see us growing old together, still disgustingly in love even when we're gray and wrinkled. That sounds perfect, I whispered. But you forgot something. What's that? I see you continuing to be ridiculously overprotective and possessive, and me loving every second of it. He laughed, the sound vibrating through his chest. Well, that's a given. I'm never going to stop protecting you, Chao Wu. You're my everything. We talked late into the night, planning our future, discussing dreams and hopes and all the little details that would make up our life together. And through it all, I felt the bond humming contentedly in my mind, connecting us in the most fundamental way. The boy who'd been bullied on a playground had found his protector. The Omega who'd been made to feel worthless had found someone who treated him like treasure. The man who'd had his heart broken had found true love in the place he'd least expected, with the person who'd been there all along. As I drifted off to sleep in Moonbin's arms, the bonding mark on my neck still tingling pleasantly, I knew without a doubt that I'd found my happy ending. No, not an ending. A beginning. This was where our forever started. The spring sunshine was warm on my face as I adjusted my tie for the 100th time, nervous energy thrumming through my veins. Stop fidgeting, Jae-sung said from his position by the door, looking amused. You look perfect. What if I trip? What if I say the wrong thing? What if you just breathe and enjoy your wedding day? He suggested. Moon Bin Hyung is probably pacing a hole in the floor on the other side of that door, just as nervous as you are. Through our bond, I could feel Moon Bin's emotions, anticipation, joy, nervous energy that matched my own. Made me smile. He's really nervous? Terrified you'll change your mind, apparently? Jae-sung rolled his eyes. As if that's even possible. The man has been planning this day for months. Everything is perfect. And it was. We'd chosen a private garden venue, intimate and beautiful, with only our closest friends in attendance. Moonbin had handled most of the planning, knowing exactly what I'd love. Lots of flowers, soft colors, elegant simplicity. It's time, Jae-sung said softly. Ready? I nodded, taking a deep breath. Through the bond, I sent a wave of love and reassurance to Moonbin, feeling his immediate response. Warmth and devotion and overwhelming happiness. The doors opened and I walked down the aisle between the flower-covered chairs. But I only had eyes for one person. Moonbin, standing at the altar in a perfectly tailored suit, looking at me like I'd hung the moon and stars. When I reached him, he took my hands and I could see the sheen of tears in his eyes. Hi, I whispered. Hi yourself, beautiful. Ready to make this official? I've been ready since you saved me on that playground 20 years ago. The ceremony was short and sweet, but the vows we exchanged were everything. Moonbin promised to love me, protect me, cherish me, and spoil me rotten for the rest of our lives. I promised to be his partner, his home, his forever. When we kissed as married men, bonded mates, I felt complete in a way I'd never imagined possible. The reception was filled with laughter, dancing, and more than a few tears, mostly for me, though Moonbin wasn't much better. All our friends gave speeches, and more than one person mentioned how obvious it had always been that we belonged together. Everyone had seen it except us. As the evening wound down, Moonbin pulled me aside to a quiet corner of the garden, away from the celebration. Happy? He asked, pulling me into his arms. Deliriously, I confirmed, resting my head against his chest. Thank you, Binny. For everything. For saving me all those years ago. For always being there. For loving me even when I was too blind to see it. Thank you for finally opening your eyes, he countered. Thank you for loving me back. For making me the happiest man alive. We're married, I said, still slightly awed by it. We're actually married. And bonded. And completely, irrevocably committed to each other. He tilted my chin up, his expression soft and open in a way he only ever was with me. I love you, Chawo. My beautiful, sassy, perfect Omega. My husband. I love you too, Moonbin. My protector. My alpha. My everything. As we kissed under the stars, surrounded by flowers and fairy lights, I knew that this was just the beginning of our story. There would be challenges ahead. There always were. But we'd face them together, bound by love and loyalty and a connection that went soul deep. Kang Su had tried to break me with his cruelty, but all he'd done was push me toward my destiny. Toward the man who'd been waiting patiently for 20 years to love me the way I deserved. And now, finally, I was home. In Moonbin's arms, where I'd always belonged. The penthouse was quiet when we finally returned from the reception, still glowing with the magic of the day. Moonbin carried me over the threshold, traditional and ridiculously romantic, exactly the kind of gesture that made my heart flutter even after all these months together. You know I can walk, right? I teased even as I wrapped my arms around his neck. I know, he murmured, kicking the door closed behind us. But you're my husband now. I get to carry you whenever I want. My husband. The words sent a thrill through me every time I heard them. He set me down gently in our bedroom, which had been decorated with candles and rose petals. Someone, probably Jae-sung, had been here while we were gone. The soft lighting cast everything in a warm, intimate glow. Moonbin's hands came to rest on my waist, pulling me close. Hi, he said softly, echoing our exchange at the altar. Hi yourself, I replied, my fingers working at his tie. Come here, husband. I want to properly celebrate our wedding night. His eyes darkened with desire, but there was tenderness there too. We've made love hundreds of times, woo. What makes tonight different? Everything, I whispered, finally loosening his tie and sliding it off. Tonight we're not just bonded mates or boyfriends or fiancés. We're married. We're forever. And I want to feel that. I want you to show me what forever means to you. Something shifted in his expression, the last vestiges of control giving way to raw emotion. Chow Wu, he breathed, cupping my face with both hands. Do you have any idea how much I love you? How completely you own me? Show me, I challenged, my voice breathy with anticipation. Make love to your husband, Moonbin. He kissed me then, deep and claiming and absolutely devastating. His tongue swept into my mouth as his hands roamed my body, relearning curves and planes he'd mapped 1,000 times before. But tonight felt different. More intense. Every touch was a promise, every kiss a vow renewed. Too many clothes, he growled against my lips, and I laughed breathlessly as he began unbuttoning my shirt with surprising gentleness given the hunger in his eyes. You're one to talk, I countered, working on his buttons as well. This suit looks amazing on you, but I prefer you without it. We undressed each other slowly, reverently, punctuating each revealed inch of skin with kisses and caresses. By the time we were both bare, I was trembling with need, my omega instincts singing with the proximity of my alpha, my mate, my husband. Moonbin guided me to the bed, laying me down with infinite care. He braced himself above me, his eyes roaming over my body with such open adoration that I felt beautiful, precious, utterly cherished. You're so perfect, he murmured, trailing kisses down my throat to the bonding mark on my neck. He lavished attention on it, making me gasp and arch beneath him. So beautiful. And all mine. All yours, I agreed breathlessly, my hands sliding down the muscled planes of his back. Only yours, Benny. Forever. His hands explored my body with practiced skill, knowing exactly where to touch to make me whimper, where to press to make me moan. He took his time, building the pleasure slowly, methodically, until I was writhing beneath him. Please, I begged, spreading my legs wider in invitation. I need you. Need to feel you. Patience, baby, he soothed, though I could feel his restraint fraying through our bond. I want to savor this. Our first time as husbands. I want to remember every sound you make, every expression on your beautiful face. His fingers prepared me carefully, thoroughly, even though my body knew his touch intimately by now. The slick was already flowing freely, my omega biology eager for my alpha's claim. But Moonbin refused to rush, stretching me slowly, making sure I was completely ready. You take such good care of me, I whispered, reaching up to pull him down for a kiss. Always so careful, so attentive. I love you so much. I love you more, he countered, adding another finger and making me keen with pleasure. Love everything about you. Your sass, your sweetness, your strength. The way you look at me like I'm your whole world. You are my whole world, I gasped as his fingers found that perfect spot inside me. You're everything, Benny. Please, I'm ready. I need you inside me. Need to feel our connection. Finally, he positioned himself at my entrance. Our eyes locked as he pushed inside, slow and steady, filling me inch by glorious inch. The sensation was overwhelming, not just the physical pleasure but the emotional intimacy of it. Through our bond I could feel his love, his desire, his absolute devotion. Perfect, he groaned once he was fully seated. You feel perfect, Will. Like you were made for me. I agreed, wrapping my legs around his waist to pull him impossibly deeper. We were made for each other. He began to move, establishing a rhythm that was both tender and passionate. Each thrust was deliberate, measured, designed to bring maximum pleasure. He angled his hips just right, hitting that spot inside me that made stars burst behind my eyelids. Yes, I moaned, my nails digging into his shoulders. Just like that. Don't stop. Never, he promised, his lips finding mine in a kiss that was more breath than technique. I'll never stop loving you, touching you, making you feel good. His hands slipped between our bodies, wrapping around my neglected length and stroking in time with his thrusts. The dual stimulation was almost too much, pleasure building rapidly toward an inevitable peak. Benny, I gasped, feeling my release approaching. I'm close. So close. I know, baby. I can feel it. His pace increased slightly, thrusts becoming more urgent. Let go for me. Come for your husband. The command, combined with a particularly perfect thrust, sent me over the edge. I cried out his name as my release crashed over me, back arching off the bed as waves of pleasure rolled through my body. Through the bond, I felt Moonbin's answering pleasure, his own release triggered by mine. He buried himself deep, filling me with his warmth as he groaned my name like a prayer. His teeth found the bonding mark on my neck again, not biting but applying pressure that sent aftershocks of pleasure through my oversensitized body. We stayed connected as we came down from the high, foreheads pressed together, breathing each other's air. Moonbin's hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing away tears I hadn't realized I'd shed. Happy tears? He asked softly. The happiest, I confirmed, turning my head to kiss his palm. I don't even have words. I do, he said, carefully withdrawing from my body and gathering me into his arms. That was making love to my husband. My mate. My everything. And I plan to do it again. And again. For the rest of our lives. Promises, promises, I teased, but my voice was thick with emotion. He settled us more comfortably on the bed, pulling the covers over our cooling bodies. I nestled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow to a steady rhythm. His hand traced lazy patterns on my back, soothing and intimate. Thank you, he whispered after a while. For what? For saying yes. For giving me this. For loving me back. I know I'm not easy, my life, my work, the danger that comes with it. But you chose me anyway. I propped myself up on his chest so I could look him in the eyes. Moonbin, you saved me when we were 5 years old. You've protected me, cherished me, loved me for 20 years. Choosing you was the easiest decision I've ever made. There's nowhere else I'd rather be than right here in your arms for the rest of my life. His eyes glistened with emotion. I'm going to make sure you never regret that choice. I'm going to love you so well, Woo. Going to give you everything you deserve and more. You already do, I assured him, leaning down to kiss him softly. Every single day you make me feel loved and wanted and precious. I'm the luckiest Omega in the world. And I'm the luckiest Alpha. He rolled us over so he was above me again, and I could see the desire rekindling in his eyes. Think you're ready for round 2? I did promise to do this again and again. I laughed, spreading my legs in invitation. I married a mafia boss with apparently infinite stamina. Who am I to deny my husband? That's my good Omega, he praised, and the possession in his voice made me shiver with anticipation. Mine to love, mine to pleasure, mine to keep forever. Forever, I agreed as he claimed my lips once more. I'm yours forever, Moonbin. And as we lost ourselves in each other again, the bond between us singing with love and pleasure and absolute certainty, I knew that this was just the beginning. We had a lifetime of nights like this ahead of us. A lifetime of love, passion, and the kind of devotion most people only dreamed of. From playground protector to bonded mate to husband, Moonbin had been my constant through every stage of life. And now, as we celebrated our first night as married men, I knew without a doubt that I'd found my happy ending. No, not an ending. My forever.